Hello, everybody. It's Lynne Scott Haggerman, and I am here to bring you an amazing and astounding podcast today. I have Alina Bonsell, and she is running for office. And this applies to everyone because you are going to be inspired by her. She has taken a step and she's taking action now. She's walking forward in this nation that we live in to take action. So I want to introduce her in just a minute with her bio. But before I do, welcome Alina to my
Yeah.
show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. I love doing podcasts. I love, talking. I have the gift of gab, so it's a natural for me. So I appreciate being on your show.
You're welcome. Well, that gift is going to serve you well for what you're doing. So, so let me take a minute to read your bio and then have some wonderful questions that are on my mind. So Alina is a GOP endorsed Republican candidate for the New York City Council, District 5, Upper East Side and Roosevelt Island. And her background, she, along with her family from Odessa, Ukraine in 1989 as immigrants, fled the former Soviet Union when you were a child. You're fiercely committed to protecting New Yorkers from radical, regressive policies. Love that word. You're a seasoned healthcare executive and fierce reformer running to flip New York City Council District 5 and put an end to radical one-party rule. With over 15 years in business and biotech, you bring real world experience to your grassroots campaign focused on restoring public safety, reforming the family court system, supporting small businesses, and confronting the city's unchecked bureaucracy. Known for your direct, unfiltered voice and unapologetic energy, you are running to flip seats, challenge the one party monopoly in City Hall, and give New Yorkers their city back. Wow, what a background and what a mission. I'm so honored to have you on my show, truly.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I honestly I should have done this a long time ago. I should have ran for politics a long time ago. I'm kicking myself about not doing this earlier. So yeah, if anybody is inspired or motivated, don't wait as long as I did. Do it sooner.
That is wonderful advice. And speaking of your advice, I know we have limited time. I wanted to jump into your background because I'm always encouraging everyone to seek and find their part in what's happening in our nation to impact and make a positive change, be the change that they would like to see. That is exactly what you're doing. And it seems like it's based upon your background, and that your background has a role to play in why we're even talking today, why you're even running. So tell me about that.
So, what they say, all the trials and tribulations, life prepared you for your destiny. So I felt that's kind of where I am right now. I kind of fell into it. I never, you know, aspired to get into politics. I never really followed politics. To be honest, perfectly honest, social studies was not my favorite subject in school. I'm probably the last person that anybody would think would be doing this right now. But I'm doing this because I now see it as a mission, and I see it now as a reason why all these bad things happened and why I had all these experiences. Because now I can, talk about them and identify them and also be empowered to create change. And, maybe it's not going to help me, but it might help other people that are going through same or other people that haven't yet experienced it. And it'll prevent all the things that, would spiral and traumatize them, for the next generation and so forth and so on. So if that is the purpose of my life, then that's something I want to, push forward and inspire others to do as well, to create change for the next generation.
That's amazing. If you would take just, and hang on, Gracie the cat is, she does love a Zoom call. I mentioned before I hit record, I'm a captive audience to her for pets. So she comes up a lot because she knows I'm not going anywhere for several minutes. So if you could take just a couple minutes and tell people, because I know they're curious, I can hear it. How did she get from the Soviet Union to New York? What was that about?
Well, I was lucky in a sense. I was just a child. I didn't know what was happening, you know.
Oh,
But my mother, and my father, they had an opportunity because we were born in Odessa, Ukraine, which was under, during the time part of the Soviet Union, and it was communist. So under communists, you don't own anything, everything is equal, but also they make all the rules. You know, you can't even practice your own religion. It is criminal to practice any religion. So during that time, I believe Gorbachev was in power. He was the president, and there's a Russian word. It's called perestroika. It means restructuring. So under that treaty, there was an opportunity for the minority uh, population, the white Jewish Russians, to have an opportunity to leave and go somewhere where they would be welcomed, such as the United States or Israel. But there was a catch. They had to know somebody that wanted to take them in, somebody that would provide them home and food and get them on their feet. And if you had such a person to call upon you, then that paperwork could be started. So my parents did all the heavy lifting. It took months and months of interviews, approvals. Eventually, my mother's, application was approved, and we were let out, but we were exiled. They stripped us of our citizenship. You know, you were basically traitors to your country. You know, go and don't come back. But they happily went, and so they arrived in America in 1989 with two little children, no English, and just $3,000.
that's amazing. I mean, and what big shoulders that you stand on today, based upon what they did and the sacrifices that they made and the courage that they had to leave everything they knew behind. I mean, I can imagine my audience now thinking, what if I left and went to another country knowing no one and didn't speak the language and had a bit of money? I mean, just heroic. You come from a heroic family, which is where you are today. And, I know you have personal experience in, so fast forwarding to New York City a few years later, um, broken family court system. So you had some experience there, and I'm all ears to hear it, that helped shape you too, your platform and your mission. Tell me a bit about that.
So that is actually the reason that pushed me to run more than any reason. I got married very young at 22. I have two children, 12 and 13, two boys, but I got divorced, also really young, when they were just two and three. And for 10 years, I've been in the unfortunate family court system, and it's in, New York State system, but it's the same in every state. From people that I spoke to, it's an epidemic. It's an archaic system. It tears parents away from children, good parents,
Yes.
and it creates so much destruction and distress. A system that's supposed to serve and help families and children, usually, most of the time, unfortunately, does the very opposite. And in my case, it's whoever has the more moneyed lawyer, whoever has relationships, right? Whoever knows how to weaponize and manipulate the system will win. And I have lost, access to my children over the years. I have been made to be an unfit parent. I've had all kinds of, unjust orders. Sorry.
No, I understand. I do. I speak to so many people, Alina, that say the same thing. You're right. This is nationwide. It's in every state. It's in my state. As a matter of fact, I have yet, and let me rack my brain making sure this is a true statement. I have yet to hear anyone who is a good parent going through the family court system have a successful ending. Yet, I have yet to have that. If anything, it's a trauma-induced system that takes everything they have, their dignity, their money, their time, their children. It takes everything.
Yeah, and it goes unchecked, right? So there's people, the judges, you know, other attorneys, third parties like therapists, everyone's in cahoots and plots, for an outcome.
Yeah.
And there is no real due process. They give you 30 minutes for a hearing. They give you a couple hours for a trial. Rulings are made on emotion by judges, and they forever change the course of your life and your life for your children. So, no, there's something that needs to be done. So many people run for office, and nobody ever makes reform in the justice system, any justice system, a priority. It's kind of swept under the rug. It's too big, it's too complicated. Let me focus, on cleaning streets. Let me focus. I mean, that's what they do, but this is the thing that needs the most attention. And I know there's, nonprofits and other kind of groups, and there's so many parents all over the country that have been affected by this, and some do take action. But who actually runs for politics and takes action? So that's what I'm doing that's different. And I know I'm starting at a city level. It's my first time. That's where we start. It's entry level,
That's right.
but I would be in the rooms with people that make decisions, people that are in state political office. I would make some noise. I would have, stories to tell them and things that hopefully will invoke attention and change.
I think that's amazing. And before we leave this topic, I had a couple of questions for you and wanted your input based on your experience so far. I'm hearing from others that it's possible for people to actually own the courts because they're for-profit corporations. So judges can own the courts themselves, and also they can own the um, group homes or facilities or whatever that children may be put in if they're separated from their parents, and that it's highly profitable to do this. Have you ever heard any of that?
I don't know, at least not in New York. It's a state court.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're controlled by the state. So, but in
Okay.
my case, the city council controls a $116 billion budget. And one of the things they do control is the Child Services Agency. We have one in every state, those agencies that
Yes.
investigate wrongdoings, have legal overreach and take kids out of homes or place them into foster home. Those agencies always have a very bad track record, whether it's New York State or national. They often don't protect the kids that need it and hurt and separate the kids from good parents because the other party is using them as a weapon against the other parent. So that agency is part of the spending in New York State. So that's something I'm anxious, if I'm in this elected office, I will have control at some way, not control, but at least, you know,
Yes.
I'd be able to be in the seat of ability to look into how they operate
Oh,
and maybe
that
change.
is exciting. I mean, really, that's exciting. And I know anyone who is a parent or a grandparent, because everybody in the family is affected, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, we all have families. And I can't remember the statistic, Alina, but there's a high percentage of U.S. citizens who are impacted by these child services groups all the time. So I think that's wonderful because having financial oversight and being able to look into that helps with accountability.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had personal, intimate experiences with these agencies when they were used against me and false reports were made. I was part of months-long investigation, and the people that are the caseworkers and work there, they're not the brightest people. They're the people that can't get a job at other places, and this is who they hire, and that is part of why they're so ineffective and efficient. But then they have this power, this overreach, and they could really change your life. They could really hurt you, your child, for the rest of your life. And they have too much power and not enough intellect, to execute on this power. So there really needs to be some reform done in that system.
And again, you have experience, and when people have experience, they know where to look and how to have accountability. So I'm excited. I know you have a big platform. Um, so escaping the Soviet Union, socialism, now you're in America. Um, Tell me about what did that teach you about American socialism, and what's the warning that your voters need to hear?
That it doesn't work. So why would so many people flee Cuba, and why did communism fall apart, first of all, right? Even
Right,
my mother would say it was communism technically, right? That's the word, but it was actually socialism because communism couldn't even be communism. They couldn't actually give you all the free things that they wanted to give you. It was still in part really actually socialism, right? Because you still had to pay for things, but it was just controlled by the government. And that's exactly what they want to do here. They just want to control it, but they still want you to pay for it. So it's not a perfect system. And human nature, even if it were a perfect system in theory, right? Humans are not designed that way. Nobody wants somebody who does less than them, works less, harder than them, is less intelligent, right? To
right.
have an equal amount of things, quality of home, it's just not fair, right? So at
Right.
the end of the line, we want to be fair. And what socialism is they want everybody to be the same, even if it is unfair. So everyone's going to try to find an angle, find a way to be a little bit more successful, a little bit, more resource, even if they're kept at a certain benchmark. And that's what they did in the former Soviet Union. My uncle had a bakery and my father had some kind of beer vending machine business, and the government would allocate to them ingredients per month, and they would expect a certain amount of profits based on the ingredients that they were allocated. So my father and my uncle, and I'm sure hundreds of thousands of people,
Yeah.
found a way to dilute these ingredients to give the government what they expected and secretly, squirrel away the rest of the profits, so that they could secretly have more TVs, more VCRs, better clothes, things like that. So that's just human nature. And we're gonna have the same thing everywhere if that's what it comes down to. And eventually it's gonna fall apart.
So I have not heard this before. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around what you just said. So in socialist countries, the government provide, because there are a lot, I'm a small business owner. I own several businesses. There's a lot of, I believe it's 80% of all businesses in the United States are the small mom and pop businesses. So
Mhm.
it's huge how many there are. So you're saying that the government would give you the ingredients for your products, and they expected a profit?
Hmm. And also, you would never own your business. They own the store. They own the building you live in, everything. You don't own any property. If you wanted to open up a business, you would apply and say, I want to open up a business. Can I use this location? You'd get approved. They would, see how you're doing. I mean, that's from what my mother told me. I was 6 at the time. So, but, and it would be a very big checks and balance system, right? And you would be expected to adhere to their rules, their policies, and they would give you all the supplies and materials you need to run your business, but they also controlled everything that you succeeded in as well, right? And if you dare lie or cheat, it'd be criminal.
I while you're talking, I'm thinking in my mind current states, current events, the current situation with small businesses in the United States. Currently, you cannot open a business unless the government approves it. I mean, like my businesses, the city, I have to pay them taxes and get a business license to stay in business every year, or I cannot have a business. Um, They dictate some things I can do, like where I can have my business, where I cannot. I remember I lived in a little town outside of where I live now and started a little business from my home. And one day the police knocked at the door. Now, this is small town USA. And they're like, "Do you have a business in your home?" Yes, that's illegal. We forbid having businesses in homes in this neighborhood. And I
Oh,
said,
that's
"What?"
strange. Even if you had a legal like tax ID and all that stuff,
Right.
or
Yeah, didn't matter. So from the state and the federal government, I had the EIN numbers, which again is them telling me, right, how to start, to me it's like the creeping in of what you eventually had. So they're creeping in slowly. So I had the permission of the federal government through filing all their paperwork, getting all that done, EIN numbers getting set up. Same with the state, filed their paperwork, so I could not open my business without their permission and paperwork and taxes. So I was all set up, happily going about my business and a little tiny business, and there's the police at my door. I mean, it shocked me. Like I've never had the police at my door before, right? It was really kind of scary. And then when they said you couldn't have a business, I said, I mean, I was so confused. And they're like, and it wasn't the town, but so cities have planning and zoning committees. And I had a friend one time who's involved with that. She said that they're socialists because she said they're the ones that tell you how to live. So the Planning and Zoning Committee had zoned certain neighborhoods that you couldn't have a business. And so I had to go before the city council. It was a whole rigmarole. But anyway, so I think about modern day USA compared to where your family was in the Soviet Union. And to me, we're like doing inchworm steps that direction.
we're going backwards, right? So that's what I said. I'm running for city council, but it's actually a way that we can stop this because in the news, we know who's in the news, even international news. I have friends right now in Europe. They're like, can you believe it? They're all talking about New York politics.
Yes,
But
everybody is.
what a lot of people don't know, and to be frank, I didn't know this either, a while back. I didn't know what city council does. I never voted in a city council election. I never understood the importance of city council. And I think it's a major fail in our education as students
Yeah,
in public schools. I went to public school, but also in our education by media, right?
right.
They post all kinds of nonsense in papers and things like that, but nobody really helps a person understand what is the difference between an assemblyman, a state senator, a federal level, congressperson? Nobody explains you what their role and responsibilities are and why you should even vote in a minor election. So in New York City, city council is as powerful as a country. They control more money than most countries do. I know maybe in Missouri or in Kansas, it's not as
Right,
big
right.
of a
I wouldn't
deal of
say
a
that.
role. Yeah.
Ah,
But
yeah.
but in New York, there's 8 million people, and they have, as I mentioned, $116 billion per year. And we have 51 city council people. It is the legislative body of New York City. So if you think of the federal government, the president, for us, it's our mayor. But he has no power to change laws or make new laws unless they go through Congress, right? And city council is the Congress of New York City. So out of 51 people, just like in Congress, we need 26 votes to say yes to something or to say no. So
Yeah,
anything that is, socialist or irresponsible or just insane,
yeah.
will never get through if we have 26 sensible people in city council that will say no. Unfortunately, right now is not the case. But every single seat is up for re-election every 4 years. So
Wow.
right now, November 4th is not just a mayoral election. Sure, we have controller running, and we have a few other state positions, but every single seat in city council is up for re-election. So it's super important that if you have an option to choose between two candidates, you consider not re-electing the same person that was there for the first 4 years, especially the same person that is aligned or is a supporter of socialist policies. And I'm running against someone that is running for re-election. And New York City is predominantly Democratic, but they're also very Jewish. And I'm Jewish too. And so is the woman I'm running against. And surprisingly, I put out a press release and she hasn't spoken up. She hasn't said anything to condemn the mayoral frontrunner, who all the Jewish people believe is not a good fit, for New York
Yes.
City. I've spoken up about it, and I hope maybe for the first time ever, the moderate Democrats or the sensible liberals or the independents will put aside their politics and don't put me in a bucket of, Republicans that they may not like from federal level, because I am totally different. My reason for running is different. The things I want to do are different. I am not financed by them. I am not controlled by them. I'm just opting to run on this party line because for someone that's running for the first time, I do need mentorship. My party helped me get me on the ballot, and they're helping me, in ways that a new candidate needs to be helped. But financially, no one's helping me. This is a grassroots campaign, and that's why every contribution that I get is so important because I and my team are the ones paying for our marketing, our media, our voter outreach, our events. So if you go to my website, alinabonsell.com, even if you're not in my district or Manhattan, even if you can't vote for me, but if you can donate anything to my campaign, because the party isn't. So that'll be a tremendous help.
And I want for my audience now, I'm going to have in the show notes um, your website for people to look at your platform and be able to donate. And I encourage everyone to do so because this is we the people supporting a fellow we the people grassroots person who is trying to make a difference. And this is how we the people win. But I want to spell out the website. It's ALINABONSELL.com. That's ALINABONSELL.com. And there you can read all about Alina's platform, what she stands on, including pro animal. Just while Gracie's here, we
Yeah.
had a beautiful talk
Yes.
about pro animal before I hit record. But you can donate. And that's very, very important that we, the people, those of you who have, even if it's $5 or $10, if several people donated that much, it would help tremendously because people like Alina, who I consider just boots on the ground, trying to help the area that they live in, which New York City is so huge. I mean, that has an impact on the entire nation, but definitely millions of people. So I want to really encourage everyone to support you. And with the couple minutes that we have left, is there anything else that you wanted to share or let the audience know?
Well, also, I very entrepreneurial, since we immigrated, I've had little businesses since I was 6 years old myself.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a very big supporter of small business, and where we live in New York City, it's very difficult. They're getting pushed out. They build a business for decades, then they don't get the lease renewal because the landlord says, well, I can't give you that same rate again. My taxes just went triple in the last 3 years,
Wow.
and they're getting pushed out. So what I want to do is I also want to do structured tax relief for landlords, whether it's residential or commercial, because that's the root of the problem, because there is a reason why they get pushed out. It's the city. The city does not have fair laws. Even right now, they don't have fair laws. How can you make them any more unfair? So let's fix what's broken. Let's fix the systems that we have right now, the court systems, the homelessness system, right? Like we have so much on our plate to fix instead of proposing all this new things that, you know, I don't think will work, but that's what I'm running for. I agree we have all these problems, and I agree things need to be done to improve our quality of life, but I want to do them the right way. I want to start by fixing the broken system. So I hope people will put aside party lines and just look at me as a candidate and what I stand for and what I want to do and my background, which is probably similar to a lot of people that are Democrats. And, for me, I just want them to judge me on me and not associate me with something in their mind that is negative by someone I've never even met.
Yes, yes, as it should be, as it should be. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I know you're very, very, very busy in your endeavors. And again, alinabonsell.com is the website to go to, the place you can give donations. I'll have that in the show notes. And thank you again for being on. As always, I'll close my show because in all things, God is absolutely good.